Chetan, thank you so much for joining us here in London. Now, tell me, Two States, the movie at least, has this been the one that you felt most nervous about, or you've been most invested in of all your adaptations?
No, because if the first part nervous, I'm not so nervous because ever since the promos have broken out, people have been wholeheartedly like them. So maybe I was nervous before the promos came out. Yeah, I think when the movie was being made, initial decisions, that was very nerve-wracking because it's a important book for me and for my readers. But now I'm not so nervous about it. Am I the most involved? I wouldn't say so. I'm quite involved, but I'm involved in the story this time. But the movie making process, Kaipoche, the previous one, I co-wrote the screenplay.
Right.
In this, I didn't write the screenplay, so I've not been involved with the making of the movie.
Okay.
But with the film, yes. With the story, this is the most involved I am with any story of mine.
Was that a conscious decision to kind of step back from being directly involved with the development because it's so personal?
Yeah, it's too personal, and I will go there and I'll just upset everybody's thinking because it's like, but he doesn't like it, but he does, it'll become a disproportionate influence. Also, I'd rather do another book. I'd rather do another new story and let them there. I've given them a whole book, 300-page book, so they can use that as a blueprint and make the movie now. I think it works better for me.
How do you choose the people who are going to adapt your books? Is there a thinking behind it? Is there a tender process or whatever it is?
Well, there's no tender process, but I wish there was in Bollywood.
Exactly.
But it's 2 or 3 very critical things. Basically, the producer, the director, and the actors. You got this combo right, the rest more or less will follow. Producer, I always go with somebody who's A grade, somebody who has a track record of producing aesthetically beautiful, good films which are successful, and use the best in class crews, whether it's music or whether it's lights or whatever, the dress. The director becomes, I would say for me, the most crucial person. And I would have multiple conversations with the director, multiple conversations with them to really see how they read the book, I don't want them to make exactly the book, I don't want them to make, but I want them to tell me how they saw it, the story, and what are they trying to tell. And from there I can get a sense on what they'll do with it. If they have done previous work, that helps. This case, it's a debut director.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is was extra difficult for me. But because they have the biggest names backing it, Nadia Dwala, Karan Johar, UTV. So they were all monitoring the whole process. So I was comfortable with it.
I remember one of the things that you said soon after the book was published was how you had to kind of tone down some of the romance, tone down some of the political career. Yeah. And then you've gone and sold it to Karan Johar, the king of romance.
I know, it all came back, and that's their interpretation. I think people like romance, people like to see that playfulness, and I think India's moved on too. The book came out 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a book, and now it's okay to show somebody kissing on screen is no big deal anymore. You could even show it in a promo, which comes on TV. So I have to change with the times. It's okay. It's a little, when I first saw the promo, I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're showing about us. But I was like, you know what, it's no big deal anymore.
And you've seen the film as well?
I've not seen the final. I've seen rushes earlier, but now I've been busy, so I'll see when the final cut is ready in the next couple of days.
Obviously, they've taken considerable artistic license. Surely you didn't break into a dance routine in the middle of a hallway at the IIT Ahmedabad, I mean.
Only that one time.
Only that one time. But you've always maintained that it is a work of fiction. Why have you been so insistent about
Because yes, it's a good question, because it's real people involved. I mean, they are my in-laws, and they exist, and there's no getting away from them. I mean, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I mean, I have to make sure that if I'm having some fun at the in-laws' expense or the mother's expense, it's better to disassociate them with this. So it's not a memoir, it's not an autobiography, it's got the plot points. I met my wife at IIM, same here. I'm Punjabi, Tamil, same here. Parents' objections, same. But it is fictionalized for the dramatic reasons.
Yeah, at least from the trailer, possibly the biggest villain in the film is Arjun Kapoor's mother, i.e., your mother, slightly unpleasant lady. I mean,
it's but when you see the film, you will not feel that she's the villain.
Okay.
Because obviously she's the boy's mother, and she has a point of view. She's trapped in her own dogma, she's trapped in her own beliefs, she's insecure about the new woman coming into the son's life. So then you don't feel that she's the villain, and that's what, it's not a movie with hero villain in a way, right? It's, the idea is that's how people are. I mean, then some people have those prejudices in them, but they may not be bad people, and that's when it becomes hard, because these guys have to win those people over. They don't have to defeat the villain. A hero villain, the villain has to be defeated. Unfortunately, here they are parents. So you can't be in a situation where you defeat them. You have to win them over, and that's a harder battle.
And another thing that you had spoken about after the book was published was the level of political correctness or lack or political incorrectness in the book, and how you had to kind of be a little bit flexible with that. Is India less kind of stodgy about political correctness today? What about the film? How is that represented in the film?
I mean, India still can get, it depends on what issues you're talking about when it comes to political correctness.
About, identity, about the different
so community
cultures.
is okay. Punjabi Tamil is okay. People get more touchy about religion, for example.
Right.
So I always tread the thin line to being politically incorrect, but not so much that people will start getting offended. But it does push the limit, yes.
And I mean, one of the things I suppose among all your books, this probably has that kind of addresses the fundamental issue with India, about bridging all of these various cultures and differences together. And is that an accurate statement? And will the movie help, do you think?
The book did help. I've had people who told me that they agreed to let their kids marry outside community because of the book. I've had people who distributed my book in their wedding. And so I think the movie will have some effect, because it's also what is happening in India now. A lot of youngsters are migrating for jobs, for education. They are meeting other people from other parts of India. They want to get married to them. And India needs to come to terms with that, that it's okay, it's no big deal. And I think it anyway needs to happen, and the movie will come and kind of act as a catalyst. But it is any two cultures. It's not a Punjabi Tamil movie. That's why I called it two states.
Yeah.
It could be any two things. But as long as people are from different cultural backgrounds, the clashes often happen.
Speaking of youngsters, I mean, there has been, and you've written a book specifically for youngsters in India, and there is a kind of a political tinge to your speeches and your writing recently. Is politics something that you're looking to get involved in? How involved are you?
I'm somewhat involved, but not in party politics. I'm not in a political party. But as a writer who writes on national issues in many newspapers, you tend to write about politics. You have to understand. And there is a whole me which is beyond the Bollywood, beyond the fiction, which is the non-fiction writings I do. So I am involved. Whether I'll get into mainstream politics myself as a profession, not at the moment, but who knows, in 10-15 years, maybe there is something I feel, this is how I can make more change happen than I am here. Maybe I'll be done with the Bollywood, I don't know. But
what do you make of the Aam Aadmi movement at the moment?
I think it's a very good movement. I think it's something that has shaken up the political establishment. But whether it can replace them, for that they have to have a whole strategy, and it's still very amorphous. It's still a little amateurish in its, which adds to the charm, but at the end of the day, charm is not what India needs. India needs good governance. So they'll take time for them to evolve from activist to political party to somebody who can be the leader of India.
And also, I mean, we were talking about London and New York and Hong Kong and all of that. As a global citizen, how do you think Narendra Modi's appointment, now inevitable appointment as the next Prime Minister, will be perceived?
Yeah, firstly, he is front runner, but it's not inevitable. Actually, anything can happen in Indian politics, anything can happen. But he's front runner, there is no doubt. And I think actually from the international community, he enjoys a lot of support. Not only the Indians outside, but the foreign investors believed that his government would deliver on economic reforms the most.
Absolutely.
And so he for right or wrong, he enjoys that confidence. So that is a plus. I think that in his favor. There are many negatives about him, but this is one of the pluses. And I think let's see what happens.
Finally, as kind of, putting the questions together, researching the movie and so forth, the one thing that, the one kind of description about you is how you are India's most widely read author. Ultimately, if you had to choose between being the most widely read and the greatest living author, what would you choose?
I think I'm okay with wide. Greatness is kind of just one of those things, subjective, and greatness is the need for greatness is a need for ego. But widely read is because you want to touch people. Firstly, I don't have it in me to be the greatest author, and second, like I said, it's very subjective. I would any day choose reaching Indians over, and maybe it can create some greatness from that is something great also. Depends.
Absolutely. Chetan Bhagat, thank you so much
Thank
for talking to us. All the best with the film, sir.
Thank you.